I am Beverly Broohm. We settle for the details now. Banks operating in Ghana wrote off about 5.9 billion cedis as bad debt last year. That's according to the Domestic Money Bank's income statement. This is about 184.2% increase over the previous year. There's more in this Business Desk report.
The total provision made were classified as loan losses, depreciation, and others. Though the Bank of Ghana did not give reason behind this bad debt, it is believed that a difficult economic environment that triggered high cost of borrowing may be the main reason. According to the Bank of Ghana, the industry's non-performing loan stock increased from 8.2 billion Ghana cedis in December 2021 to 10.4 billion cedis in December 2022. This is partly reflecting the revaluation of foreign currency NPLs and the deterioration in some domestic currency loan portfolios. In terms of distribution by economic sector, the private sector accounted for a larger stock of NPLs, consistent with its larger share of total credit. Its share of total NPLs, however, declined from 96% to 92.4% between December 2021 and December 2022, while the share of public sector NPLs increased from 4% to 7.6%. The construction sector continued to remain the sector with the highest NPL ratio of 29.1%.
Some economists doubt necessary lessons and actions are being taken by government to prevent another debt exchange program. These are concerns that came up during the Joy Business Thought Leadership Program on the preconditions for an IMF deal for Ghana. Dr. Japoma Jakedako is an economist, and she expressed concerns enough is not being done in the area of fiscal prudence.
People have now become more aware of the repercussions of their actions. I think that if you look at the financial space, the banks have now become very aware. Before banks, if you look at the income statement of banks, you see that most of them were lending to government, and they were lending endlessly to government, to the extent that they were crowding out the private sector because they found the private sector to be more risky as compared to government. But we've now seen that government can also be risky. So I think that to that extent, the banks would have learnt by now. I think that individuals have also learnt their lessons. I'm hoping that government would have learnt as well. Because,
but Doc, some will say that it's not about hope.
Yes.
Because when you have someone having about 80% of his investment being wiped, and I know someone who has had about 14 million Ghana cedis been hit, it is not about hoping again. It is about ensuring that we don't get here again, and it starts now. As in this argument about the self-government now and not the future.
Certainly. I mean, we should ensure that we don't, we voice out when we see government actually borrowing going on a borrowing spree, the way it has done over the last few years. We should question. We should be able to question. We were all sitting quietly, like Senor was saying, and then watching all of these things happen. Now it's come back to bite all of us. So I think, and the reason why I said hope is that I'm hoping because over the years, how many times haven't we gone to IMF? This is the 17th time that we are actually going to IMF. So, I mean, if we don't learn this time, then I don't really know when else we are going to be learning. We need to rationalize our expenditure. We keep talking about this. It hasn't been taken seriously over the years. We need to sit back and prioritize, think about what is important. Think about the kind of expenditure that would expand our productive base, not the populist kind of expenditure that we've been doing over the years, the sort of expenditure that would win us votes. But the things that would help actually expand our productive base are the things that we should be thinking about. Because you see, borrowing in itself is not a very bad thing. It is what you use the money that you've borrowed for that is really, really important here. So what have we used the money for? Have we used the money to refinance our previous debt? Has it all been about recurrent expenditure? Have we not invested in capital? Have we not spent on capital? What have we done over the years that we've not managed to reap what we have actually put into the economy?
Now, investment analyst David Tete is worried about government's inability to do enough when it comes to expenditure cuts and how it's going to use savings accrued from the domestic debt exchange program.
I haven't seen any signal, any clear signal to show that the government is cutting, is reducing wastage in the system, is going after people who have embezzled government money. We haven't seen any signals. We are not cutting or reducing our MMDs. Our budget that we are working with now is very expansionary, so we do not see the signal at all. And week after week since this DDP was launched, policy analysts, bankers, ex-bankers, consultants have all been talking about seeing the government committing, to making some cuts in expenditure, which would then send a signal to the rest of us that, look, leadership, with the government in leadership, has taken the first step in this burden sharing. But for now, I don't see any conviction, right? We did a very elaborate work and presented to the minister. He conceded that this is something that the government must do and the country must commit to. But so far, the signals are not clear. Look, across the border in Côte d'Ivoire, we've seen what Ouattara has done. He cut down the ministers, right? That is probably the greatest optics you can send to the populace. Look, the president comes out and says, look, I've reduced this number of ministers, I've cut this, I've cut that. Everybody says, look, yes, action is being taken as a result of the fact that we're in a crisis. But for now, we are not seeing. And I think, on the other hand, some of my other speakers have said that, look, some of the elite people who have access and assets have been lax. I think, and I shudder, it's a fear I have, that when people start receiving their coupons, in the next 3 weeks and in the next 4 weeks, we could fall asleep again.
Away from that, government has been entreated to work closely with various stakeholders to bring down food inflation. This according to senior lecturer at the Department of Economics of the University of Ghana, Professor Eric Osei-Asibe. According to him, the hike in food inflation from 59.7% to 61% in the recent data by the Ghana Statistical Service calls for drastic measures to be taken, hence the need for policies in that regard to be implemented. He was speaking at the American Chamber of Commerce Ghana 2023 Economic Outlook Report.
Professor Osei-Asibe at the event said government should be deliberate in its attempt to support the agriculture value chain. He called for more investment to expand the sector and asked banks to reassess various support programs for the agri sector.
Part of our current difficulty, especially with inflation, has to do with our inability to produce enough food that we consume. And so if you look at the current data that was issued by the Ghana Statistical Service, food inflation constitutes about 61%. That is high because everyone eats, right? And there's serious supply bottlenecks along the value chain of our food production. And so I am of the view that if we are able to come out of this economic quagmire that we all find ourselves, we need to be deliberate, we need to be targeted and make sure we have big push investments into our food value chain processes, right from the production level to transportation level to conservation level and to distribution and everything else. We need investments along that line, and it will mean that the banks, governments and all the institutions that matter have to come together and have to begin to shift focus and put much more emphasis on farming.
He also called on the government to be more aggressive to rake in revenue domestically.
What is also needed is to then expand the cake, the baskets. That is about raising your revenue. we have to find a more aggressive way of revenue. People have to be tax compliant. Government has to be effective in collecting the tax revenue. The corruption within the system, has to reduce. Businesses that try to find smart ways of evading and avoiding taxes, all of them have to set up, because if we don't do this and collectively try to solve this problem, we are going to be in for a long haul. But if we all are committed to it and we all play our part, I believe that in no time we'll come out of this.
The American Chamber of Commerce Ghana 2023 Economic Outlook Report provided insight into government tax provisions, fiscal and monetary development, debt sustainability, and key macroeconomic performance and targets.
Now, Virtual InfoSec Africa and Logarithm has launched the next-gen SIEM SOC cybersecurity service to protect the data of organizations from possible cyber attacks. According to the Group Chief Executive of Virtual InfoSec Africa, Emmanuel Siedu, there's the need to create more awareness on safeguarding the data and activities of organizations from cyber attacks.
Virtual InfoSec Africa and Logarithm, cybersecurity service providers, launched the next-gen CM-SOC cybersecurity service to limit the damage and disruption of the data of organizations through the activities of hackers and cyber attacks. The next-gen CM-SOC includes artificial intelligence that will detect and prevent threats to prevent further damage. Speaking at the launch, Group Chief Executive of Virtual InfoSec Africa, Emmanuel Siedu, said, "It is imperative to scale up awareness on the need for organizations to adopt cybersecurity services to protect their activities from cyber attacks."
There's awareness. People have seen the impact of losing their network and if they're being hacked, especially the financial sector. As a company building the financial industry, a security operations center, we know the importance of such such initiative. Currently that is what we do, and I believe that not only the financial sector, the remaining 12 critical infrastructures will come on board to help government. This space is such that there's so many smart people who can hack into the system. So it's a 24/7 system that they also need a smart mind to be able to knock those things off. So from what I've seen there, now the awareness has been created. Again, the authority is doing their best. We must all support them financially in any way to make this country great, because without us, they can't succeed. And
Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority, Dr. Albert Ntriboisiako, urged foreign cybersecurity service providers operating in the country to partner with local companies to develop a robust cybersecurity system.
The framework which will be launched from the first requires that if we're a foreign provider like Logarithm, you have to either register as a business in Ghana or you partner with a licensed cybersecurity service provider. But I think you've been very proactive because you've already gotten a partner here. Nothing will prevent you from exercising your profession because you've partnered with a local Ghanaian cybersecurity ecosystem. We want to develop this industry, and not just services, but we want to develop a robust cybersecurity ecosystem for the Republic. And I think across the world is only Singapore, which has also introduced licensing of cybersecurity service providers. I do encourage you, industry, to support this process. It is meant to really raise the profile, the credibility of this industry.
The next-gen CM-SOC cybersecurity service will eliminate blind spots and shut down possible cyber attacks.
Now, the Dean of School of Engineering Science at the University of Ghana, Professor Elsie Efa Kaufman, has called on industry players and government to support students involved in the study of science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics STEAM with practical activities so that they can come out with innovation to solve problems in the society. According to her, young people can be able to commercialize their innovations once they are given the needed support. She was speaking at an annual Impact Roundtable discussion and robotics competition.
Annual Impact Roundtable discussion and robotics competition was organized to share with the world the tremendous work of Helping Africa Foundation in impacting lives through STEAM education. The theme for this year's roundtable discussion is building an inclusive and sustainable STEAM education for the future. The foundation, through its Yamranza Model Labs program, hopes to build labs in the 16 regions of Ghana to support the study of STEAM. Speaking in an interview, Dean of School of Engineering Sciences at the University of Ghana, Professor Elsie Kaufman, said there is a need to support young people who are interested in the study of STEAM to commercialize their innovations.
It's a joint and communal effort that is necessary. So, for example, a young person starts showing promise in the basic school, they may get to participate in activities like this. In junior high school, they get to participate. When they get to senior high, sometimes that's where everything falls off. They go to boarding school. The boarding schools don't have the facilities to be able to do this. They start losing interest. Then they come to university. That's where they come and meet me, right? Some of them come to engineering school. But sometimes the way in which we continue to teach them, they lose the opportunity for practical application even as they go higher up. We lose all of that opportunity. But is it really the job of a university to start churning out products? No, not really. So we need partnership from industry to come and take some of these bright young programs, these things that their students demonstrate, and convert them into commercial products that we can all benefit from. So it's a partnership. We cannot expect one group. The teachers in the basic schools can't do it alone.
Project Director at Implementers, Kafi Prebi, added that the initiative is expected to boost the interest of young people in science, technology, engineering, arts and maths-related courses.
The ETAD is expected to boost the interest of the children in STEAM, that is STEM with arts, right? Where people learn the science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics, where with that STEAM, they learn how to be able to connect emotionally and work with colleagues, right? So they study the science, but they also study the arts of it, emotional intelligence, collaborative working with colleagues and working together. And we see the practical projects, you see the kids working together collaboratively. You also see them defending their own projects, which is they are learning how to speak in public, and that is the art part of the STEM. So we are encouraging that in all our 16 labs, and so we see the kids are getting better at what they are doing.
ETAD is calling on non-governmental agencies and corporate institutions who are interested in promoting STEAM education in Ghana to support its Yamranza Model Labs program.
Now, some civil society organizations across Africa are unhappy with the state of the African Continental Free Trade Area in what they describe as the started growth of the Secretariat. According to Head of Programs for the Third World Network Africa, Tete Homeku Ajay, member states lack good policies and proper strategies to promote production domestically, hence affecting operations. He spoke to Joy Business at the Africa-wide consultative seminar on AFTA.
The meeting aims to share perspective on the African Continental Free Trade Area, exchange details, information on the processes and various parts of the AFTA and the basis for future interactions among CSOs around the Trade Pact and broader trade and development advocacy in Africa. Tete Homeku Ajay bemoaned the absence of key players, including various private sectors across the continent, in the negotiation processes.
For countries, individual countries, to benefit from the ACFTA, they must have policies in their countries which facilitate producing and trade and export. Now, at the moment, only a few countries that I can talk about have actually put productive policies in place. Some countries are still in the process of thinking of their strategic policies. Now, you can't actually go forward unless you do that. If we don't do those kind of things as African countries, what is likely to happen is that we are going to create a very big market, and then the external forces that we were already trying to go away from will dominate the market. So I would say that the potential for the ACFTA depends upon, first of all, whether we implement the agreements that we have, which we have not yet implemented, and secondly, whether countries have put in place strategies to be able to support their domestic producers, their financial sector, everybody, to take advantage. So we should get our government back and say, hey, listen, What is your strategy to pull your domestic producers? And let us not behave that Ghana is giving advantage to somebody or somebody. Those people who are trading is because they have got their house in order. They've got their homework, as it were. So please, it's not that Ghana is giving advantage to anybody. It is not getting any advantage. The problem is us. What are we doing in our own country?
The consultative seminar is structured to provide opportunity to address various issues affecting the Secretariat.
The appeals court in Kumasi has granted an application for stay of execution of an order from a Kumasi High Court restoring the president of Kwapa Cocoa Farmers Union pending her suspension by the National Executive Council over embezzlement. The High Court on January 10th this year quashed the decision to suspend Fatima Ali, who until then was under investigations for alleged embezzlement. Here's more in this report.
The court, presided over by His Lordship Justice George Adair Crofer, explained the decision to suspend Madam Fatima, who also doubles as Managing Director of Kwapa Cocoa Limited, did not follow due process. The ruling was to restore Madam Fatima to her role as President and Managing Director of the two organizations respectively. But the appeals court has overturned that decision. This was after a 7-member National Executive Council filed an appeal and stay of execution of the High Court decision. Counsel for the plaintiff, William Kusi, tells Joy News the ruling by the appeals court is victory for over 100,000 farmers in 6 cocoa producing regions.
That decision made by the High Court restoring her is suspended. So until the appeal is finally determined, she cannot be acting as president of the Farmers Union any longer. Neither can she act as an acting managing director of Kwapa Cocoa Limited. She cannot do anything. So the status quo is that Fatima Ali is on suspension and that the business of Kwapa Cocoa will proceed as usual. It's victory for us, and I'm sure that the appeal is an obvious success.
An attempt to remove the acting managing director of Kwapa Cocoa Limited over alleged misappropriation of funds has crippled operations of the union, including the purchasing of cocoa beans, payment of premium and commission to farmers. Vice President of the Kwapa Cocoa Farmers Union, James Ajekum, wants all factions in the impasse to unite for the common good of the farmer.
And the twins are free new animal, the other side, in whose own a cry, a hono, on my kind. It's an amona you to me, at the Hukuni Yidi. If Yanka boom, saying I became a boom. Now you're too sad, say, na ye dinkunim amekuno.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyementiria reporting.
And that's all for Prime Business. For more business news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I'm Beverly Broohm, and I leave you with news making headlines on the international front.